The fiscal year 2023 through 2024 mid-year budget review report.
So move 1 and 2, actually, the first one's receive and file. Move number 2.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Gray,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Falk,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Well, we need the motion to wait for the that's two. It's both. It's 1 and 2. Did he move 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
we were on DR1.
We
and
passed
But
it.
we passed it. We're just going to do this before we do that.
Okay, so that motion was for 01?
No,
Yeah.
so wait a minute. Just to clarify, do you want to do
No.
first?
No. We're doing DR1.
We already did.
Receive and file, and 2 was adopt. So
Yes,
so
okay.
we're done with that. So
Yes.
now we'll have the report.
Okay.
And you're going to have Kiona do it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask Kiona Buchanan, our budget manager, to give you an overview.
Welcome, Ms. Buchanan. I did. I jumped to the next one.
Oh, okay, you got it.
You were right. You just got a little.
Oh, ready. All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, members of the public. I am here to present our fiscal year 23-24 mid-year presentation report, which is based on our first 6 months of the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023, ending March 31st, 2024. So let's kind of get right into this good news. All right, so this slide presents a snapshot of the general fund budget as adopted October 1st, 2023, and the current modified as of March 31st, 2024, which is our current reporting period, and the fiscal year 24 projected year-end estimated for budget based on the budget review through March 31st, 2024. So at adoption, general fund revenues were 189.5 with an anticipated carryover of 20.3 million, totaling 209.8 in revenues. The expenditures had a planned expense at adoption of 20.3 million. The city was projecting a fund balance of 6.6 million for the fiscal year. That is assuming all that is budgeted will be spent, including the need and use of carryover. Well, following adoption, the city had additional budget adjustments that were made, modifying the budget to general fund revenues remained at 189.5 and expenditures are at 224.7. Now, please note that the modified budget includes the City Council's additional approved items and carryover items, mostly for operations related to contracts and incomplete projects. It does not include the carryover in revenues at this time, which will only be recognized upon need if realized at the end of the year. Now, upon further review at our mid-year, based on the current activity as well as the levels of spending, we have projected a year-end of general fund revenues being 228.8 million and general fund expenditures, at 207.8 million, resulting in a projected year-end fund balance of 21 million rounded. Now, the year-end estimated revenues is based on the anticipation of the overall revenues trending higher than budget, but also due to a transfer in of 29 million from our refinancing of our bond, the pension obligation bond. The year-end projection for expenditures is based on the anticipation of lower expenditures due to vacant positions not being filled within the fiscal year, and remaining work to be completed on continued contracts that will be potentially rolled over into next fiscal year. Now, further assumptions, as noted there, could result in higher revenues and or expenditures, thus increasing or decreasing the available fund balance at year end. So this slide here represents it makes up the revenue categories for our general fund revenues. Now, what we've done this year, of the total modified general fund budget of 189.5, the city has received 117.4 million, or 62% in revenues at mid-year, compared to 118.4 in the prior year same period. So with that being stated, revenues are fairly flat in some sense or another. But I'd like to note that the revenues at mid-year were reported fairly flat or somewhat lower compared to prior, primarily due to a change in the timing of our yearly financial adjustments. The variances in revenue categories, as you can see, for sales, UUT, and other various local revenues only account for 4 months of our cash receipts compared to 6 months in prior years. And I wanted to point that out because the green lighted shaded boxes can give you the presentation of what our normalized revenues actually are. And so as you can see there, we're actually up, and the contributing factors would be sales tax. Overall monthly sales tax are trending positively, and they are anticipated to mark budget, as well as, though there's an appearance of our admission taxes showing that they're down, I want to be very clear that admission tax, SoFi has reached the cap of $15 million, or their value of what we anticipate receiving, which includes inflation. This year would be $17 million. They've reached their cap of what we anticipate receiving at the end of their calendar year, which overlaps with our first quarter fiscal year, and now also goes into our mid-year. Admission tax were an anomaly this year due to this non-cyclical nature. They're based on football season and events. So therefore, we are anticipating and expecting our admission tax to make budget at $17.3 million, though we have not received much revenues to date, and I've explained the reasoning for that. And the other contributing factor are UUTs.
Excuse me, Ms. McKenna. Let's make it simpler.
All right.
Okay. We have a cap that was 15 million, it's now 17 million. Is that right?
Yes.
And
because of
so
inflation.
their fiscal cycle is different than ours. Is that right?
Yes.
And so when they reach their cap in their cycle, then we're waiting for that to start before we start collecting revenues again. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So this doesn't short us at all.
No.
Yeah, I've read some places people say that our admission taxes have fallen off. Quite the contrary. They've always maxed every year. Is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
That is correct. And our UUTs, however, though they do appear to be slightly down, however, they are slightly down because of our electricity and gas revenues. They've been changing year over year just because of the changes in distribution for utility users tax related to a lot of different changes with our business development. Okay, let's go on to the next slide here.
Mayor, can I ask a question regarding taxes?
Which one?
Part of the presentation. You want to
Okay,
take
I
those over?
ordinarily wait till it's ended. I just clarify when she says something that's kind of complex so that the public understands it. Questions are at the end. I was making a statement, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, the last contributing factor I don't want to ignore, we have our other local taxes that does have the appearance as well, but I'd like to also make note, if you can see the 18 million over the 16 million normalized, they are also up. So I wanted to make note there's a significant rise in our business license taxes due to the increased business development and commercial taxes and licenses, and marginally in residential business tax. So that increase is slightly offset by a decrease in non-residential construction. But overall said, all revenues are trending fairly high, and they are anticipated higher than last year and are anticipated to meet or exceed budget. All right, so we have our mid-year general fund expenditure performance. This is of the modified general fund expenditure budget amount of $224.7 million. The city has expended $84.9 million, or 37.8%. in expenses at mid-year compared to 79.2 in the same year prior period. Now, overall general fund expenditures are 5.7 million or 7.2% more than the same period last fiscal year. The overall increase in general fund expenditures is primarily due to an increase in negotiated wages and benefit increases, contract services, and capital improvement projects. So I'd like to note that they all are fairly up in comparison to last year, with the exception to Public Works. Public Works is slightly lower by less than $500,000, less than 7%, and that's only due to a decrease in payments for contracts, as well as machinery and equipment that we have held off and chosen to buy less of this fiscal year. This slide is fairly new. We have decided to add this slide just to give an additional presentation and understanding of how the increases have had an impact on the budget in comparison to prior year, but still under budget in terms of spending based on the overall appropriation. So the previous slide presented you the expense allocations based on the categories of the operations. This one is based on the category of our appropriation spending: personnel service, maintenance and operations, capital, one-time, and projects. So, though we are higher than last fiscal year, same time, this is expected. And again, the city's expenditures for the general fund are still under budget by 24.4% of the proportionate spending of 50% through mid-year. Please note that the expenditures will increase as seasonal activities arise from seasonal or cyclical operations, as well as filling more full-time vacancies and the continuance of spending on outstanding obligations for contracts and projects. So now we have our mid-year special funds performance. These are all of the funds unrelated to the general fund. Our special funds total revenues at mid-year totaled $125 million, received of the $218.9 million, or 57.1%. I'd like to also note, in terms of the expenditures, special funds have a total expenditure at mid-year totaling $112.5 million, expensed of the $252.7, or 44.5%. And in both cases, when it comes to special revenues, which are consisting of gas tax, property tax, grants, which are restricted funds, the revenues and expenditures are fairly down from the prior year, relatable to some changes that we've had with some CDBG projects, as well as some changes and shift that we've had in some Measure R, ITC, and RSI projects. As far as the proprietary funds are concerned, revenues are up $3.2 million, or 14% more collectively from the same quarter of last fiscal year. And the expenses, in terms of proprietary expenses, are also up $2.3 million, or 10.5% collectively from the same time last fiscal year. These increases in expenditures is mainly attributed to the sanitation fund and the water fund, and that holds true the same for the revenues as well. Mostly all of the special revenues are expected to come in line with what we anticipate in terms of budget, and then those that don't will be wavered based on drawdowns. The changes could be based on the drawdowns. And finally, we have our mid-year capital improvement project status by category. This slide shows the current capital improvement projects appropriations and project status by category. The current citywide CIP appropriation is $106.9 million, with a total of $18 million expended at mid-year. The current general fund appropriation is $17.4 million, with a total of $3.8 million expended at mid-year. A total of 33 projects are in the construction phase and 16 projects are under contract for design. The city is anticipating on all the general fund appropriation to be spent by year end for the general funded projects, which total $17.4 million. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Gray, you had a question about taxes.
Yes, thank you. In regards to the $50 million cap, did I hear you say it's $17 million now?
Yes.
Within,
Does it go up?
for inflation.
So inflation and
Those are for
CPI
inflation.
annually.
And it's actually 17.3 if we want to get exact.
All right, so, do other, stadiums have taxes, a cap on admission taxes also? Do you know that or not?
They don't all have admission tax.
Yeah, many
admissions
stadiums
tax.
do not even have admissions tax. Others have admissions tax that range anywhere from 0 to 10%.
So, and
Yeah.
so how did we
1%
arrive at the number that we came up with? How was that decided?
That's a matter of ordinance that was first passed, I think, about 1980.
In terms of the percentage?
Yeah,
or the-
percentage.
Yeah, the percentage.
Yeah, for venues over 17 or 18,000, I think it is right there.
Over 17,000.
17,000. Yeah, that's yeah. Under 17,000 is a lesser fee.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other council questions? Okay, just for a matter of clarification. Every now and again, I get these Google notifications, and one of them was for a particularly inaccurate publication, and the allegation is that we're going to have a $35 million projected $35 million deficit for this year. Is that true?
No, as Keona just pointed out, our projected year-end balance at the beginning of the fiscal year was about $6 million, and now it's grown to about $21 million.
Okay. Other places would call it a surplus. We call that a positive fund balance. Isn't that right?
Yeah, there's no such thing as
Okay, there's no such thing as surplus. And the next thing I wanted to establish, there was a time when the treasurer said that we were going bankrupt. Over the last 4 years, even if we projected a deficit in any of those years, have we ever closed without a positive fund balance?
No.
No,
Say that again.
no.
Okay, so now we're going into our 5th consecutive year anticipating a positive fund balance.
Yes.
So, Mr. Weinberg, compared to days gone by, are we in a different financial situation than we were 13 years ago?
Well, I think that goes without saying. One of the things that I was looking at that makes me smile is that we had $17.4 million set aside this year in the general fund budget for CIPs. We had over $100 million total, but $17.4 million. Back 13 years ago, we had zero. We had no money for general fund CIPs. As you know, when I last sat here in 2010, we were weeks away from not being able to make payroll. We were looking at about an $18 million operating deficit, and we had zero reserves. So I'm happy to say, Mr. Mayor, I think we're in a better position.
And we're somewhere in the area of 130 million of unobligated reserves now.
Yes.
So we're in a different situation. So for any of you that read that stupid blog, we haven't ended up with anything but a positive fund balance for going on 5 years now. Thank you very much. Now we'll go to 01.
Yes, Mayor.